Murray and Lizzie from the Soul Movers, from Winston and I. Welcome to
Hi, Winston. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Winston.
We know who does the grunt work, Winston.
We, like Winston writes all my questions, as everybody knows.
He's the brains of the act, right? He's serious.
Well, it's why the questions are, so well researched, because,
exactly.
So it's good to see some new music from the Soul Movers, and we've got a couple of songs to talk about to start with, and also an album on the way. Dumb Luck is the title track, and the first song that we got to see. And, what I loved was, Murray, you're a big Stones fan, I'm a big Stones fan, and you're channeling Keith through that one.
Yeah, I am. It's it's a 50s Telecaster in open G, just like, and I love that sound. He's a big influence on me, and Marco, the keyboard player in the Soul Movers, and I are big fans. And as soon as I started playing that sort of riff to that song, Marco's going, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "So I should do this on the piano." So I love particularly, sort of late 60s, early 70s Stones, and so that's kind of what we're going for. But it kind of just fell into place. We didn't sort of set out to do that. In fact, I think when we first started writing it, I had in my head more like a 60s girl group kind of thing, but it just became this. And I'm really happy with it. And it's just a joy to play on stage. You just crank it out.
It's fun from the get-go. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess, on the other song that we'll talk about, Trucks, Lizzie, you're almost channeling a bit of Mick at the beginning of that.
Go, trucker! Yeah, trucker hat.
Well, sort of, I can imagine you visioning, B-52s as well. But, I think you could do...
just had something really good for breakfast that day, because all the boys were like, what's she on? Because I think it was, we did Dumb Luck and we did Trucks and we did something else that day. And I think I did try to work out what I had for breakfast, because it can be such a strange little chemical reaction that
it's also
puts you in the studio and gets you vibing that way, So
it's also that thing, though, that it's like all our music, and I think everyone's music really is kind of a sum of their influences and the sum of the things they grew up with and the stuff they like. And
that's true.
Of course, we're all influenced by the 60s and 70s, and then into the 80s and beyond. But so that kind of B-52s thing is something we haven't had in there before. And someone else said, "Oh, it sounds like it could have been played at CBGB's in the late 70s or something." We thought, well, that's fair, because that's where we come from, and so that's how it ends up in the music.
I think the other thing is too, it's the guide vocal. I'd never played that before or sung that before, so you hear me almost cracking up as I'm going, "In your trucker hat," because I was slightly embarrassed to play it to the band, because they hadn't heard it before, and that was it. That's all captured in that recording. And Marco is very protective of guide vocals when they turn out right. I think it's his acting background. He's just like, mate, the first take with you was always the best. So we did actually find a way of stripping out the bleeding guitars and stuff at 301 and keeping the guide vocal on 4 songs at least. They were all one take, first take.
Just for people who don't know how that process works, because we were just all in the studio together, like amps on and everything, and Lizzie just had a mic, and it was really just it wasn't really a recording mic, it was a mic that you might use live. And so through her mic you get the amp sounds and everything. But we had a great engineer in that studio, Jeff Lee, and
Stu Geddes at 301.
Stu Geddes at 301 just worked some magic on it. And
he goes, "Oh yeah, I can take it out," because Jeff's like, "No, can't be done." And then Jeff goes, "No, I can do that." And I'm like,
Stu,
yes.
Stu said that, But it was great because it kind of just captured a performance. It's a really, I think it was like maybe the first or second take, and even I played a solo, and I was just making it up as we went along.
It's best when you just blast it out.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I'll replace that later. And then when I listened to it, I went, no, I don't think I'll be able to do that.
Loose. We're running it loose this time around.
Well, I was going to ask you about rounding off the Soul Movers now. We've now got Luke Herbert on drums, Matt Crawford on bass, Marco there on keys. So is the band that we hear on the record the band that we will see on the stage?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Over the years, we've had different people come and go, but these are our brothers, and we love this band. It's a really great band, and that's why we use them all through the record. And there's a few guest musicians, but not many. There's Lizzie went to America and got a few on.
It's probably about 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 other people on the album. Spencer on slide, and we've got the Memphis horn section. We've got 6 different backing singers on it, together and apart,
and of course Charles
Hodges on keys. Al Green
played on Al Green's 70s records, and so that's the only one I think that Marco's not actually on, but it was his idea. So
it was his idea, and Boo Lawrence Mitchell made it happen too, which is awesome because it's not our first rodeo at Royal. So
Lizzie went back in May and went to some of the studios we recorded Bona Fide, our album two albums ago, because we knew that they had some great backing vocalists particularly, and some other great instrumentalists, and there's just magic in those studios too.
Massive magic.
So she went over and spent several weeks there, and
not one loop, but 2 loops, and came back around again. I did the backing vocals first, and then some of the boys flew in, and we got them to play some instruments. So
yeah. Well, the Fide was that was, I think, Sun Studios, wasn't it? And
that was 8 different studios.
Also been Fame Studios.
Sun Royal, Fame,
Muscle Shoals with the Swampers. That
was a
Friendly Forest in Nashville, Jimmy Buffett's joint.
Does it make a difference being in a studio like that as opposed to being in a Sydney studio? Do you sort of get a different vibe?
For me, yeah, absolutely. Well, there's the people that you can access to, like the Scholes sisters are second to one. They do backing vocals for Willie Nelson, and all the big names in the last 30 years, from Muscle Shoals to Memphis to Nashville. They've been doing that for 30-something years. But actually, the building of Royal, I think, is probably hallowed ground for musicians. Yeah. I mean, like I said before, it just looks like an old fruit packing shed. It's all just lined with this loose kind of caramelized, butterscotch coloured, like packing. I don't know what it is. It's
like Hessian
and what's that stuff they put in air conditioning? Yeah. But it's so old. It's like 70 years old now that it's just become this inert energy capture, like a Dreamweaver or something. But Ike and Tina Turner have cut 12 records there. The Beatles rehearsed there. Like every big name, the gold records, just
all Al-Green's big hits in the early 70s.
All his albums have been recorded there on that Hammond B3 as well. So like as soon as you walk in, it actually hits you kind of in the solar plexus. The studio's involved, and that whole thing with Charles Hodges. I mean, I FaceTimed Marco because he was in Slovenia to bury his mother, and Boo and I just went, let's support him. And Boo's asking about that, and then I said, let's go over and play the B3 for you, just so you could hear the voice of the B3, and to lift up Marco.
The Hammond organ.
Yeah, to lift up Marco. And Boo got behind it and started playing to Marco. Marco's having conniptions, going, oh man, I wish I was there. And then Marco goes, I'd really love to have put an organ line all over you. And Boo said, maybe we could ask Uncle Charlie to do that for you. And I was like, whoa, serious territory. And he was busy, but somehow Royal Studios, what happens in that time and place, it's a different time and space connection. He made time, he moved something, and he was there for an hour and a half, and he put those keys down the week. I've never experienced anything like that before, that place.
So it was a nice way to do it. I wasn't actually there, but it was a nice way to do it, that we got most of the stuff down here, just meat and potatoes.
So you don't have to worry.
And then took them over there and just got the bits that we needed. Yeah.
We call it blink. Yeah. We blinked it up. But, that was a really good way to go, because it was utterly terrifying with Bona Fide. And I think, having the bones right, having the drums right, having the mixes halfway there, and anything else was kind of bonus. And I think that's probably what's taken this album up just another level, because there's more confidence in the bones. We were able to do,
took our time on it.
Yeah. Well, no, we were able to do sort of more experimental things. Like
that's true.
What did we put on it in Creative Workshop? The not xylophone.
Oh,
vibraphone. Yeah, little things like that on Smoke and Mirrors, which we'll have a clip for next week, that I think add to it, just give it a little bit more dimension and more of those retro sounds that we know are on these amazing albums that Dusty Springfield did, and these same instruments. And I back of my brain remembers those, since I was a kid listening to that stuff. Yeah.
Somebody's been having a lot of fun making videos, hasn't somebody, Lizzie?
You know what?
We got a new iPhone.
People say, "Oh, who shot that?" And I'm like, I did on this.
Really? That was
should be
made
on
on an
the app.
iPhone, all that driving around Las Vegas?
Mate,
Yeah.
1 terabyte Pro Max. There you go. That's my cinematographer.
Wow.
So
No, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
hanging it out of
And then,
windows.
of course, we
Amazing I didn't drop it out the windows when you see how many trucks I overtook.
We got a great editor to put it all together and then grade it and everything. So that part of it was all the professional.
Yeah.
But it's the results on that phone are just incredible.
Yeah, Michael Agweber, who also nominated for Iron Man. What's that?
He edited Iron Man for Academy Award for. Is it for?
Yeah. Who does Iron Man? It's a Marvel. Yeah. Okay. So Marvel Comics award-winning editor, because Hollywood's on strike. I'm like, well, this is good for us, but not so good for him. So yeah, he's working on 3 clips for us. And like I said to Michael, it's like, it doesn't matter what, any old stuff in inverted commas I give you, you managed to turn it into gold. So thanks for that, Mikey.
So what was the trucks video made?
Oh, we just shot footage. You'll see footage in both in the Dumb Luck one, this back end of around the back of Royal, actually, sort of the tough side of town in Memphis, but Palm Springs into the Yucca Valley is what you see at the end of trucks. Yeah, the credits. I'm like, oh, you've got to have that desert shot where I come around the corner and the guy's getting out of the truck. You've got to use that. I love that because it almost looks like a dolly, but it's just me hanging a phone out the window. And then I take a corner.
Then I'm playing guitar outside the container terminal down at Tempe in Sydney.
And then Luke's playing a truck in Memphis, like in between our hotel and Royal Studios. I'm like, so check out that cool yellow truck, Lukey. Let's go play the truck.
It's a transcontinental video.
This is Dumb Luck, the 5th album. If we like. I've been reading the 4th album, but I add up 5 albums if we go back to 2009 on the inside. But the 4th album with you, Murray.
That's right. Yeah. So sometimes we say 4th because it's the 4th one that we've done together. Yeah. But yeah, it is the 5th Soul Movers album.
4th in 10 years. My goodness, I can't believe it's been 10 years. I don't think he would have jumped on the back of the truck if he thought he got stuck with me for 10 years.
No comment.
His halo.
What, has it really been 10 years, Murray?
Yeah, 2013 he came over for a rehearsal and suggested getting the wheels back on.
Yeah. So I guess we started in earnest a little bit after that, but yeah, we've been making music for that long. Yeah.
That's incredible. The origins of this, when it goes back to 2009, that very first album. Lizzie, are you still sticking with the same philosophy, the direction, the strategy that the band was originally going to have when you started this with Dennis Tech all those years ago?
That's an interesting one because it was Dennis's idea to start the Soul Movers. He's the one who named it Soul Mover. The lyrics with Radio Birdman in it to Radio Birdman Up in the Sky. So he just went straight back to the source and fished out another band name inside 15 minutes. Then raced over and said, I want to write some music similar to the stuff I grew up with, listening to the jukebox at high school where I was allowed to put on songs with the cool black kids. That was his first joining in moment because he liked the Temps and, the Four Tops and all that cool stuff. So he wanted to go full soul. I would say where we ended up now is having gone through like Testify and stuff like that, we realized that when you write songs, you can't fabricate your background. You are the sum of your parts. That's your musical DNA. So we've worked through a lot of the 60s and 70s sounds that we loved in the last few albums. And where we've arrived at now is probably a bit more closer to the stuff we were listening to as teenagers and early 20s. For me, I was listening to a lot of Violent Femmes and obviously B-52s and stuff like that were popular, but we're also like Start Me Up was coming out. So like really driving Rolling Stone songs are in there. And we've been moving through the decades, I guess, a little bit with these albums. So where we're at now is probably about 1986 in our lives. God knows what's coming next.
I kind of see it as this is almost like all the things we've done.
Yeah.
Putting it into one big pie, and as you say, and the 80s stuff as well that we haven't really.
And obviously, me and Murray write the songs. There's a couple of songs on it that we pulled the band in for, just because we were putting it down pretty quickly. By then, we were batching it and going in and doing 3 or 4 songs in one day, which old slave driver Lizzie probably just
so
pushing
Trucks
it
was pretty bare bones. I think we just came up with it. Like Lizzie had this idea.
Yeah, it was terrible. But I just sat there on my terrible guitar and went, and it's got to have that, and then we took it to the band and they made it sound good. So don't worry, the band got splits on that one.
Yeah, but when you go back and think about, early days of Beatles, where they used to go in the morning and put down a song, go to lunch, come back in the afternoon, do another song, and do that every day for a week. And at the end of the week, they had an album done.
Fresh. It's a good work ethic.
Yeah. Well, also Marco said the other day we were doing a live show, and we've only just started playing these songs live because we've had a break. And Marco was saying one of the great things about these songs is because we played them pretty much live in the studio, they're quite. You can bring a version of them to life on stage pretty easily. And even though we don't have the great backing vocals that Lizzie got in Memphis and Muscle Shoals,
they stand up without.
And Marco and I fake what we can. But it's true. There's really something.
Cindy and Murray. There's 2 of the Shoals sisters were Cindy and Murray.
So Marco's Cindy and I'm Murray.
Murray.
But there really is something to be said for that. And I always like records where it sounds like it's a band playing. But like with the last album, it was really built up with overdubs. There wasn't much just playing in the studio.
We like the space.
And so this was a really lovely experience. But it was also, I think we're really happy with the way it's turned out.
And we're still doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing in the music industry, which is dropping one single, that's been worked on for a year by 15 different producers, and it's got all these plugins and all that sort of stuff. We don't use plugins. I don't use auto-tune. We don't use anything we can't do on stage. And so when you do, come off stage and you've liked what you've heard at a concert, go over and buy the merch, it's going to sound like that predominantly. We still like it fresh. We still like it real. That's music to us.
Yeah. Well, it's great that, the origins of this band, when you track it back to Radio Birdman and Hawaii 5-0, and here we are all these years later, and, you're channeling through a show like Poker Face. So we really have come full circle.
Carly Kale, mate.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it wasn't lost.
She's got Steve and Dano in both of. She's one character with Steve and Dano. Yeah.
We look forward to seeing more shows very soon, because there's lots of those coming up. And dumb luck.
We look forward to seeing you at on September the 2nd, Paul. Yeah. Rocking out for Bron's birthday, you beauty.
Hey. Happy birthday to her.
Ronnie.
You gonna sing, Winnie? Happy birthday. There you go.